you guys a couple things for anyone who's new today about being a new member in the club. And then we are going to have a guest come on.
Hi everyone, I'm Shreyas Kasi. I'm the finance officer, though I go and do a bunch of stuff. Everyone does. Dues for the year are $15. Good to see you again. Hi. And essentially, get them to me. If you have a check, make it payable to Public Speaking Club at Georgia Tech. And if I'm not available for any reason, Anita was taking care of dues last year, so she's on top of it, and I'm actually going to her for advice about it. So, all right. Now, really time.
What's speaker's name?
Okay. Speaker's manual. Oh, okay. Sorry. So for the speaker's manual, I know some of you have already heard, but it's a guidebook, and it's written by the Public Speaking Club, essentially, and basically gives you an idea of what to look out for in public speaking, what you can get from it, what you should try to achieve, essentially. It has a ton of characteristics, and we try to follow those every time we come up here and speak. And when you pay your dues, once people have paid dues, after a week or so, once we know everyone's kind of in the club, we'll send out one big email of the speaker's manual. It's a PDF. It'll be sent in your email. And really that's an incentive to pay dues, not an incentive to try and steal the speaker's manual, because it's just kind of hurting your own self as a member of the Public Speaking Club. But yes, you'll get one. You, Jeremiah, you will get one.
If you pay.
Okay.
And lastly, just the email list. If you want to contact any one of us, we can throw you on the email list, which we usually send out a reminder every week about where the meeting is, when it is, and sort of, and sometimes we'll send out links to videos we've seen or articles we've read, kind of like this one here today.
So everyone is right now getting all the emails because it's on an interest list, but as you pay your dues, you'll be moved onto the members list, and then probably within a month, only members will be getting reminders of anything approaching.
That's correct.
All right. So, if we were Luke Skywalker, he would be our Obi-Wan. If we were Sarah O'Connor, he would be our Arnold Schwarzenegger. If we were any random actor in the movie industry, he would be our Morgan Freeman. We do have an advisor, and he is Miller Templeton. Give him a warm welcome.
What is the best way to learn how to public speak? Someone tell me.
Doing it.
Doing it! You got it! And that's why this club exists. And you are missing an incredible opportunity if you let a club meeting go by and do not drag your sorry tail up here and speak for a minute. You got to do it. You just got to do it. Only way you get good at public speaking is by public speaking. Now, number two, it's also good to know what the hell you're supposed to do when you public speak. And it's all in the manual. So pay your dues, get the manual, and I would really urge all of you to be familiar with these 24 characteristics of public speaking for two reasons. One, try to do them yourself. Being human beings and not angels or Stephen Hawking's intellect, when we get up here, we'll remember 2 or 3 or 4 of them and try to do that when we speak. But number two, more important, you can critique other people. If you have this familiarity with all the characteristics, when you watch other folks speak, you can see, ooh, they were really good at this and this and this, and they really sucked at this and this and this, and you get feedback. And if you're the one speaking, then you get feedback as to what you did good and what you did bad. But you can't do that unless you know what the characteristics are. So I really encourage you guys to be familiar from the get-go with those 24 characteristics of public speaking. Really important. Now, I assume last time, John, while I was in Alaska last Thursday, that y'all went over the 5 reasons why people public speak. You did not. You tell me. There are 5 main reasons why people public speak. Someone tell me one of them, based on your own experience. Why do professors public speak? When a professor is up in front of a class, that professor is speaking to educate. Okay, and we can use the term inform. That's more generic. People public speak to inform. You go to seminars. where maybe their objective is to educate you, but they're really there to inform you. So that's one of them. What's another one? Persuade. What's an example of someone getting up and public speaking to persuade?
Politicians.
Say it? Politicians. You see it on ESPN, on CNN, when a senator is standing up in the Senate persuading the folks to vote for his bill. He's public speaking. And sports fans, the better you public speak, the higher the probability you'll be successful in persuading people to do what you want them to do. That's why most really good leaders are good public speakers. And you don't have to have charisma, this magical quality that a lot of actors and public speakers and public figures and politicians have. But most people who are branded as having charisma are good public speakers. It's an element. It increases the probability that you can persuade people to do what you want to do. So you speak to inform, you speak to persuade. What else? Why does Jerry Seinfeld get up on the stage and speak? To entertain, exactly. And also Laurence Olivier, when he's strutting and fretting his hour upon the stage and then he's heard no more. He played in Shakespeare's plays, okay? You know. An actor is public speaking to entertain. And so you public speak to entertain. Okay? What's the fourth reason we public speak? Why does a preacher or a rabbi or a priest or an imam speak to their group? What are they trying to do?
Lead.
Say it?
Lead. Lead.
Lead? Well, not exactly. They're speaking to inspire. They are speaking to inspire human beings to be better human beings. And we started looking at TED Talks yet?
Not yet.
Incredible resource. I can't remember what TED stands for, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 20-minute videos on the internet. They call TED Talks. And a lot of them are to inspire people to do wonderful things. And then a fifth one is to motivate. Think of the football coach. It's halftime, and his team is behind 10-20. And he's got 100 football players there in the dressing room with him. You damn well better believe he's got to motivate those guys to get out there and do good. He will be public speaking to these 100 people to motivate them. And most public speeches can be a combination of those five. So kind of think about that. And when you get up here to do your public speaking, do a little thought as to what elements of these I'm going to do. One more thing I want to share with you. Now remember, it's so important that you go learn these 24 characteristics for your own use and so you can give feedback to other people as they speak here and we give them feedback. Public speaking has two components: substance, what you say, and style, how you say it. And we will focus in the club on style. Your substance, that's up to you. Great speeches have both. Like Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, it was voted by the American Historical Society as the greatest speech of the century 1900s, had both substance, great content, and style. He delivered it well. He used a lot of the components of public speaking. But here, your substance is up to you. Here you learn style, and there are 24 elements to speaking style. We would encourage you to come to every club meeting, speak at every club meeting, and not just every club meeting. As you learn the elements, every time you have the chance to get up and say words to your fellow human beings, do it. If you're in a club or an organization, anytime it meets, get up and speak. If you're a fraternity sorority, get up and speak. If you're in a class making a presentation, get up and speak. And try to practice all of this every chance you get. The only way you get good at it is practice, 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 practice. That's why it's important to come here and give a 1-minute speech every time you're here, 1, 2 minutes, whatever. So that's kind of the essence of it. I've been public speaking since I was 5 years old, and so I've got a little experience in this area. But I usually just sit back here and watch you and analyze what you do and provide hopefully helpful hints as to how you can do even better next time by emphasizing what you did good and suggesting certain things that you can do better. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys tonight, and I look forward to having an exciting fall semester with each of you. And come up and introduce yourself to me. One of my goals will be to learn to call every one of you by name. Now, if you come one night and don't come again, that's not going to happen. But if you want to come all the time, then introduce yourself to me a lot so we get to know each other. I go by Miller. It's spelled M-I-L-L-E-R, but since I'm from the South, it's pronounced M-I-L-L-A-H. Miller. And John does it very well. Okay, that's it, guys. Continue the meeting.
Thank you very much. All right. We're actually going to kind of go back to something we had planned to do a little bit earlier. There's a couple icebreaker games I thought we'd play today for a quick second. There's two things that I wanted to do here real quick before 7:35, if someone can keep me on track here. There's something called Change Up, which is really entertaining to watch, and I think it's also entertaining to participate in too. The way it works is someone comes up and gives a you can talk about anything you want, preferably some sort of anecdotes. You're going to give a story, and when we say change, you have to completely change the tone or basically how you're giving this speech. So you can change the speed of the delivery. You can change from very animated and lots of body language outside the body to very close and limited body movement. So it's totally up to you. You have free reign of what you want to change. But while you're up here, while you're giving your story, when we say change, when someone will designate someone to do that, we'll have you kind of change up how you're giving your story. And then the second thing is introducing each other. So if you want to get into a pair, you can make this up as crazy as you want. But you're going to introduce a friend or someone who you know and make up a totally random story about them. So these are just ways for you guys to think about what you're going to talk about, some different prompts and ideas. But we're also going to postpone the and counter and the timer and all the evaluations until next week. So don't forget about that. We're going to be doing that next Thursday, because that's really the most important part of when you're up here speaking. But the idea is that we want you to just get comfortable real quick, and then next week we'll start paying a little bit closer attention. So, do I have any takers for either of those two things? If you want to do them.
One comment, that one rule for introduce each other is that you're not allowed to pick someone you already know.
That's true.
Oh, good. Good.
Very good.
And it doesn't matter, they just made up that rule.
Well, John, let you and I illustrate this and let Anita be the one to call the change.
Okay,
Sure.
that sounds good.
We're going to model for you what we want y'all to pair up and do, okay? Come on, get out front where they can see us. Well, gosh, John, what have you been doing this summer?
Well, let's see. I've worked with GE Energy for about 2 or 3 months, so I spent a lot of time. I was over there in the plant. It was pretty entertaining. I had to monitor how these gas turbines were being built. They
Change. I'm not going to wait for Anita. Change.
But halfway through the summer, it took a really bad turn, and one of the blades that go on these turbines landed right on my foot. I was in crutches for the rest of the time. It was a really miserable experience from then on. So,
Okay, I'm going to talk. You make me change.
what were your summer plans?
I did incredible things. I traveled to Iceland. I went to national parks. I traveled to Alaska. I went to Washington, Boston, San Diego, California, Seattle. Come on, make me change. Out in California, the people are really weird, and there are UFOs flying around all the time. But that was really hard for a guy from the South like me to get used to. And the people in California, those that are not nuts. Well, the cool thing about Alaska is there's gold everywhere. And I actually got the most gold in one pan that I have ever gotten in one pan of gold when I was gold panning in a river in Fairbanks. All right, so just go back and forth. Just change dramatically. All right? Y'all pair up and do it. Sorry for usurping your role.
And you can do the change one by yourself too if you want.
Yeah, y'all just tell each other to change.
Yeah.
Let's go back
Who's
and
going
forth.
first or second?
You can change the emotion of the story.
We need need someone to volunteer. We're gonna pick somebody. Yeah, William. All right.
Yay.
So who's gonna be who's being the change agent?
Caller.
Yeah, I guess you guys can speak to each other.
Alright. So, give an antidote I've heard from. So, a friend of mine told about his uncle. His uncle was a very, very big man. Healthy, strong, ruddy, thin to everything around. But unfortunately, though, when he was about halfway through, my friend was about 10 years old, or 12, or thereabouts, his uncle contracted cancer and was given 2 weeks to live.
Change.
And so, it was really interesting as they kept going and going. So, he was given 2 weeks to live. Then when 2 weeks gave, he was given exactly, he was going to die at 7:35 in the morning. So therefore, my friend remembers exactly at 7:35. Waking up. His father was there with his uncle. And at 7:36, the uncle died. Of cancer. Well, of cancer, so they thought. But then, once they went and did the diagnostic, he didn't die of cancer. The cancer was going to kill him, but the cancer was going to kill him in about 5 minutes. He actually died of a heart attack, really. He just died of a heart attack. That was all. It was just like, bam! So, unfortunately, though, and so right there, 7:36, no. So therefore, they were so distraught. I mean, for goodness sakes. He was just there, a strong, healthy person. So remember to get screened for cancer, and all that. And so, So that is the story I told. My dear friend told it to me as he might have gotten a cancer diagnostic as well.
All right, swap roles.
All right.
Change agent.
There we go.
Start talking.
So over the summer, I thought I'd go and play basketball. With a couple friends, go out, have fun, hanging out, get closer together, type of thing.
Change.
To what?
Up to you. Anything. Make you crazy.
But as we're going out, I don't know what to change to.
You can change the delivery. You can change change the tone.
But there was a car accident, even though we were in a car. It happened right in front of us as we were about to cross the street. And we happened to be witnesses to this car accident. So we stayed at the scene, and the police, they came over, they wanted us to, they interrogated us.
Change.
I'm so scared. I just couldn't believe it. They took me in, they tried to bring me down to the police station. I started running. I don't know why, but
Change.
I couldn't think. So back at my house now. After all this is over, we're all laughing about it later. It's all good. It's done. Didn't get to play basketball, but I still feel like we still came closer together. Speaking from opposite.
What were your names again?
Austin.
William.
Just tickets.
Yeah, y'all introduce yourselves when you come up front, first of all.
Can we get someone else or another pair?
Yay.
All right. Anyone else want to go up with him?
All right. I'm Jeremiah, and this is
Karin.
Karin.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to talk about how I can imagine my life as sort of a continuum in which I observe when I'm a baby, an infant. And lots of amusing things happened when I was a child. For instance, I used to call microwaves microwaves, or shampoo, shampoon, whatever that means. But
Change.
one time I was wearing a suit that covered my hands and barely escaped death when I shoved a pair of scissors in an electrical socket. And my arm completely lit on fire. But everything was okay, because I just did stop, drop, and roll. And, you know, all the flames just went out the window, and my parents lifted me up and threw me in the air, and I was just laughing because I didn't know what was going on. I just saw some cool orange stuff all over my shoulder. But then, eventually I realized that my hands were a little scorched, and I'd had an allergic reaction that day from the egg that I'd eaten. I don't know how I had an egg allergy, but that just happened. And I was about to die. But luckily, my parents were doctors. I don't know what I would have done if they weren't. But I survived, and I'm here today, and I have a little birthmark in my tooth because, you know, that's just what happens when you have a high fever and an allergy attack when you're a toddler.
All right, switch roles. That was good.
Okay, I thought I would tell you about the place I lived over the summer. I lived up in New York, but not New York City. Because New York City, you always think like tall skyscrapers, but I was actually in upstate New York, which is basically like here, but they don't have any southern accents. And they were also very confused as to why I didn't have a southern accent. I had to explain that Atlanta does not have a southern accent, or talk like a drawl like this, or anything like that.
Change.
So talking with a southern drawl, which I'm not particularly very good at, but I lived close enough when I was younger to the edge of Atlanta, which isn't really failing in a southern accent, but my family's Californian, if you can't catch that. But back in Schenectady was actually where I was at, which is not far from Albany, which most people actually know is the capital of New York, but Schenectady is the slowly dying town of the capital region. It's actually where GE was, he knows. And they're slowly like losing population. And with all these population leaving, they cannot sustain growth at all. So like it's really dilapidated areas, and when it's really cloudy, it looks like a shithole. And in this shithole, you find people of the most eccentric variety of people just walking around. There's normal days of anything. I don't know, running out of things to talk about, rambling. But the aptly named name for it was Sketchnectady, so we all kind of called it in the long run. Because it was pretty much like that.
Okay, that's good enough.
Jeremiah.
Karin and Jeremiah. Excellent.
One more pair. Can we get two people to introduce each other?
Right behind you.
All right.
Huh?
All right. So you get. Oh, you can do it. Yeah, that's true. It has to be fake.
It has to be fake. It has to be.
We're going to introduce each other?
Yes.
You can make up a story.
Yes. Like the Nobel Peace Prize winner or whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
Hello, everyone. I'm Casey.
And I'm Lauren Bice. Nice to meet you.
I would love to tell you a story about Lauren. Lauren, as you can tell, in her current form, is a very fine physical specimen. You wouldn't believe it, but her favorite hobby, actually what she wants to grow up and do after her time at Georgia Tech, is be an exterminator. Her favorite thing is to put on one of those bug suits, put on the bug zapper glasses or whatever, and get her gas and go after those bugs. Just the other day, we were over at my house, and there's this big rat up in my ceiling, and she was like, "Show me that rat, Casey! Show me that rat!" So she gets on the ladder, climbs up there, and you just hear her just running around. It's like almost like a track meet up there. The two of them chasing each other around. And she finally corners this guy, and she grabs my baseball bat, and she just slams it to the ground. And she draws me up, and she's like, "Hey, look what I did." She's very talented. Don't let her spoil her appearance.
That story may or may not be true. Now let me tell you a really great story about Casey. And this goes back to one of his interviews at school in the College of Management. We're both management majors. So if anyone's been in the management building, you know that they paint these columns every single day. paint every wall, everywhere in the management building. So Casey decided that he was going to lean up and, do the cool stance against the wall after the painters had actually painted the wall before he's going into an interview. So he proceeded to walk into the interview with paint on his back. And that's Casey.
Gabe, do you want to do change? Up? That's a yes. That's a yes.
Gabe? Oh, okay. Y'all ready to change?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shreyas. I introduced myself previously, but I know short-term memory loss is pretty common. If you're experiencing symptoms of common seizures, anything remotely like epilepsy, then you may have short-term memory loss. But we have pills for that. So anytime you think that you might be in a little bit of trouble, then we can't help you. You're pretty much on your own, soldier. You're in the jungle now. And everything just got real. So there's no more unicorns, no more ponies, no more Skittles. But that's okay. Yeah, I don't need words. I don't need words to describe to you the immense power of inspiration. Because if you have inspiration, then who needs memory? Who needs to be able to communicate with other people? You do. Now, I know many people think that it's difficult to communicate when you can't actually speak English. But some people can speak English, some people can't speak Spanish, some people can't speak languages. That doesn't really matter, as long as you're yourself. And you know down in here that when you're yourself, you can probably do terrible things to other people. Straight face. I've done a few terrible things in my life. I've forgotten to put on my left sock. I've forgotten to take out the trash. Forgotten to do the dishes. You gonna blame me for that? You gonna blame me? Change. What about him? What has he done for you? What has he done for you lately? No, he's done nothing. He's done nothing in this debate. He's done nothing in this campaign. I am your choice for America. Your turn. A change. I'm not as good as Shreyas. I'm a much better public speaker than I will ever be. But I hate him. I hate him, and I've hated him since I've known him, and I've known him for a long time. I love his hair, though. It's really nice. He never has dandruff. And this one time, we're at a mall, and he bought this puppy, and it was a horrible little puppy. It peed everywhere, and it went into my house, and it tore up all my clothes. But, change. Yeah, change. So I was in my room, I was changing clothes. I was putting on a suit to go to an interview. And I wasn't really prepared for an interview. I walked in there, he started asking me weird questions. Where are you from? And I said, I don't know. Wait, I didn't change, I just said it before. But it's okay, because I'm just speaking, and I'm bad at public speaking, and I know that. That's why I come here, because I want to get better.
Right.
And I also want to, I don't know, public speak like Shreyas. Change. You got this. I believe in you. You've never believed in me. You've always been better than me, and you've always done things better than me. Just change. Please change. Okay, I'm done.
Introductions. Alright, so what starts off a speech well for you? Like when you hear a speech and you're just sitting there like chilling and you're like, whoa! What happened? Like what is that? You know, tell me. I mean, is it a story? Is it an anecdote? Is it a joke? I mean, what is it? So let me know. Let me know how a speech starts for you. I mean, what determines whether or not you remember it.
Anything said dramatically and powerfully has
Yes.
the potential to grab the audience.
Yes,
No matter what it is.
it is true.
I believe you could quote the New York telephone directory, and if you did it powerfully and dramatically, it would be a great opening for a speech.
That's true.
But I'm weird, okay?
So you should try that. but yes, basically a quote, a personal anecdote, an emotional story, a question, really anything. And if you've ever heard Miller talk, you know he spoke a little bit today, he usually starts off with a hugely dramatic introduction. Why? Because the introduction and the closing of any speech, they're the most important, right? Because that's what you remember, right? So it's like a sandwich. You're making a sandwich, so you have this piece of great multi-grain bread from Whole Foods, and you have this other slice, and in the middle, it doesn't really matter what's there because you have the multi-grain bread, right? So that's kind of what it is. We want you to have these really great like bookends, and then in the middle, that's up to you, however you deal with the content. But basically, the introduction, a quote is great. Sometimes you can get an inspirational quote, which is always wonderful. It sets the mood. Or if you can find a joke, that works a lot too. A personal anecdote. This treads on interesting ground because you're talking about yourself to all these different people, and they may or may not have gone through the same things. So it's it may be relatable, but it may not be. It may alienate some people. It may not. So you just have to tread some ground. I know, like Randy Posh, when he started his speech talking about death. Well, death is such a universal thing, so everybody could relate to that, right? So just make sure if you do start out with a personal anecdote, make sure it's not so like crazy esoteric and like about Georgia Tech and thermodynamics that like no one can understand it, right? So make sure that it's pretty relatable. An emotional story, once again, walk the line. You don't want to like start out crying in the beginning because that would create problems. You definitely want to maintain your composure the whole time. A question is great. I did this a lot in middle school, and I was like called the question girl. I was like, so what do you think? And that's how I used to start all the time. So asking questions is wonderful. You interact with the audience. You can figure out what they want, what they feel, and get them on your side really early on. So those are just some examples. If you guys want to try, please do. Yeah. So who wants to try? Who wants to give an introduction? Anybody?
I will.
Okay. What's your name?
I'm Austin.
And this can be about, actually, you want to choose a topic for him or have him?
I
pick
kind
it?
of haven't chosen it today.
Oh, you have chosen?
We're gonna start. We can start.
Sure.
I'm just working the introduction, right?
Yeah, yeah. What is the time? What do you guys?
Just no more than 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Perfection on a plate. A juicy, flavorful top sirloin alongside steaming, creamy mashed potatoes, the ideal meal. On sale now at Publix. Buy one, get one free. Simply Potatoes, dinner's choice mashed potatoes. Assorted varieties, 32-ounce package. Save up to $3.99. Tomatoes on the vine, $1.79 a pound. We also have Publix Deli Fresh Mozzarella Cheese Logs for $4.99. Febreze candles, you call it, guys, you know you need that. $4.99. Assorted varieties, 5.5-ounce package. Then we also have Dawn dishwashing liquid for $2.49. Can you believe that? That's a good deal. I don't know how long I can read Publix coupons. Does that work?
He took a mundane subject and presented it with drama and power and panache. Or at least he tried. It's a mundane subject. Reading out from the coupon section of the newspaper. That's a good example. Thank you for doing that, Austin.
All right, who wants to go next? All right, what's your name?
Andrew, can I stand right here, or do I need to come to the front?
Oh, you
Gotta go to the front.
Ladies and gentlemen of Georgia Tech, as I stand before you here today, our world is shrinking. Every day, people are making connections, interacting with people. If I asked you 45 years ago, do you know someone from another country, half of this room and I would be able to say that they know someone in a foreign country. Now, if I pointed at someone randomly in this room, they could say they know someone from India, they know someone from Argentina, they know someone from Bangladesh. This Facebook generation of interacting and friend requesting people has created network of connections that allows us to move faster, make more money, introduce ourselves, open up a job market that was never there before. Nike itself as a company is selling and marketing in America, creating their shoes in their factories in India and in China and Bangladesh and Thailand, and taking that profit and paying off more people. This world is shrinking. You think in 10 years, if you don't know a foreign language or you aren't able to communicate with people of a different race, a different culture, you'll be able to work as well as effectively? That is wrong. You need to be able to experience cultures and meet with people and be able to interact with someone that has a totally different life experience from you, and be able to say, I am from America, but here is how I know of your culture. Here's how I can interact with you. Here is how we can create a bridge and create a connection, a friendship. We are no longer an isolated country. We are no longer isolationism is a thing of the past. We are a globalized, shrinking world.
Dylan?
Dylan, give it a shot, Dylan.
So this is just a quote, introduction with no content in the middle. So, to be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in thy mind to suffer the slings or arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, by potent end them. To die, sleep. To sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there is a rub from that sleep of death, where dreams may come. Long shuffle off this mortal coil. There's respect that brings calamity. And I don't remember the rest of the quote. But Hamlet, Shakespeare, Article, something, 216.
Yeah. So Jenny's going to do what?
Oh, and I'm just encouraging you guys, I saw a lot of you up there, feel free to walk, feel free to come out of the podium. In fact, come out of the podium. Do you realize the world that we're living in now? So many different languages, so many different cultures. If I ask you, hey, how are you doing? ¿Cómo estás? আপনি কেমন আছেন? Huh? मैंने जानता. আমি জানি. Different languages. What do they mean? The same thing. How are you? How are you doing? We have so many different languages. We have so many different countries. But language is universal. Everyone understands the same thing. So if I ask you, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? আপনি কেমন আছেন? It's the same thing. You don't have to know. You don't have to know other people's languages. You don't have to be able to understand their language, but you can understand their self, you can understand their spirits, you can understand their goals, you can understand their ambitions. And if we create that unity, and if we make ourselves realize that no, we don't have to understand where he comes from to understand who he is, I think we'll be living in a grand, grand world in the next 10, 15, 20, maybe more years.
In conclusion, I'm going to give you an introduction that illustrates three things. See if you can pick out all three. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of
happiness.
That obviously is an introduction to a speech about happiness. What three things did I do?
Open.
I started off, this is not intuitively obvious. In public speaking, there's a trick called grand entrance, where you sit in the back of the auditorium. And when your time to speak comes, you step up, and in a very loud voice that fills the whole volume of the room, you start your introduction, where everyone has to turn around and look at you. Very powerful way to get their attention. Then number two, you speak it very clearly, very precisely, very slowly, and preferably a quote that everybody knows, so that kind of identifies you with the audience. But number 3, you make your audience participate in your introduction. How did I do that? I simply paused and let you fill in the word that all of you know. So think about that as a method to introduce something.
Or even rhetorical questions are great strategies too. Not too many, but a few.
Yeah, who was it that talked to Andrew? Talked about the shrinking world. Yeah, you could have started off the same way. You could have started off by saying, guess what, sports fans? The world is shrinking. Think of the devices we have that have bound people, person to person, face to face, voice to voice, that are ubiquitous, that are part of our society now. See the difference? And you could have started, as Jenny said, with a question. You could have said, the world is shrinking. Tell me how. And hopefully someone said, we now have Skype. All right, that's it for me.
I think that's actually time. We're going to have to call it. But for those of you who didn't get a chance to speak, next time we want to hear from you. The next